J-Bone here, and I've got everything you need to know before you watch this weekend's 2025 Chinese Grand Prix, including a recap of the biggest moments from this past weekend's insane season opening Australian Grand Prix. And that's where we're going to start right now. J-Bone! First and foremost, the 2025 F1 season opener in Australia was one of the wildest races I've ever seen, and here's why. Rain was always in the forecast for the Australian Grand Prix, and with the Albert Park circuit being a track that can eat drivers up even in dry conditions, just look back 2 years ago when almost half the field didn't even make it to the finish line, we all knew that we were in for some chaos down under, and that's exactly what we got. The chaos began before the race even began, when V-Carb rookie Isaac Hadjar spun out on the formation lap due to the wet conditions, which meant he would not get to compete in what would have been his first ever F1 race, despite being the rookie who qualified the highest. This was super emotional and sad, unless, of course, you are soulless Red Bull advisor Helmut Marko. Once the race finally got going, things only got crazier. On lap 1, Alpine rookie Jack Doohan didn't even make it 6 turns into his home race before crashing, and last year's winner of the Australian Grand Prix, Carlos Sainz, had a car issue that sent him into the wall and out of the race as well. After a safety car and then some racing, we then got some bizarre team orders from McLaren halfway through the race, where they were instructed not to race each other, which was boring, but then immediately told that they could race each other soon after. Classic weird McLaren team orders. And right after that, Fernando Alonso uncharacteristically crashed, which brought out another safety car. Things then got even wilder after racing resumed, as both McLaren drivers went off right as it started raining super hard, with Lando Norris able to recover and stay in P1, but Oscar Piastri, the home hero, dropping from P2 all the way to last place at his home race. Lando pitted for wet weather tires, while Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton stayed out to try and risk it all on slick tires for the win, which was heroic but did not end up working, so they had to put on wet weather tires. We then got one final safety car with 10 laps remaining when rookies Liam Lawson and Gabby Bortoleto both crashed. It's a theme this race of rookies crashing, which ended with us having a 6-lap shootout for the win between Max Verstappen and Lando Norris that saw Max get within 0.3 of a second to Lando, but Lando being able to hold off Max for the win, redeeming his wet weather Russian Grand Prix loss back in 2021. My favorite chaotic results from this race were rookie Kimi Antonelli finishing an absurd P4 in his F1 debut, Alex Albon finishing P5 in a Williams, Lance Stroll of all people finishing P6, I don't know how that happened, Nico Hülkenberg finishing P7 to score more points for Sauber in one race than they scored all last season, and Oscar Piastri overtaking Lewis Hamilton at the end of the race to finish P9 after literally looking like he was out of the race at one point. I mean, come on, folks. Just look at the current F1 World Constructors' Championship standings, okay? Mercedes are tied for P1, and Williams, Aston Martin, and Sauber are all ahead of Ferrari. Delicious. What a truly incredible start to the 2025 F1 season we just got. Now, unfortunately, our second and final order of business related to the Australian Grand Prix before we move on to the upcoming Chinese Grand Prix, we need to talk about how my 3 bona fide F1 Australian Grand Prix race predictions ended up. My first race prediction was that Max Verstappen would win the Australian Grand Prix, and while Max Verstappen almost won the race by deciding to stay out on slick tires in the wet, and then almost ended up winning it again by being less than half a second behind Lando in its final laps, Max Verstappen sadly did not win the race, because Lando Norris and McLaren played at the end of it perfectly and simply did not allow Max to ruin their day. My second race prediction was that at their home race, Oscar Piastri would finish on the podium and Jack Doohan would finish out of the points. And considering Jack Doohan couldn't even make it through one lap of the race without crashing, this prediction would have come true if Oscar Piastri did not make that one tiny going off mistake from which Lando Norris was able to recover, but that took Oscar from an easy P2 finish and maybe even a race win all the way to last place. But folks, because I got this prediction half right, I'll be awarding myself a half point and thus a half J-Bone. J-Bone! My third race prediction was that both Williams drivers would finish in the points in Australia, and while Alex Albon finished deep in the points with an insane P5, a car issue took Carlos Sainz from a probable points finish into the wall on lap 1, making it so that this prediction did not come true. But again, because I got this prediction half right, I'll be awarding myself another half point, and thus another half J-Bone. J-Bone! That puts me at 1 for 3 for the season thus far with my predictions, which is not great. However, I am not L-Bone just yet, as I am not eligible to become L-Bone until we have entered the second half of the F1 season, so I still have plenty of time to right the ship before the thought of once again becoming L-Bone even enters my brain. By the way, because my name is still J-Bone and not L-Bone, please do not comment L-bone on this video because I will read it and it will make me upset because it's not true. And while you're not commenting L-bone, be sure to toss this video a like, because I'm trying to hit 4,000 likes on it like we almost did on my Australian Grand Prix preview, so that YouTube likes me more and shows my race previews and recaps to more people this season than they did last season. My Australian Grand Prix preview is the most viewed video in the history of my channel, and I want to keep that momentum rolling with this video, folks. J-bomb, not L-bomb. Alright, enough about Australia. It is time to look ahead and talk about this weekend's Chinese Grand Prix. The Formula 1 Chinese Grand Prix takes place this weekend at the Shanghai International Circuit in Jiading, Shanghai, China, Asia, Earth, Solar System, Milky Way, Linear-K or Supercluster, Universe. Depending on where you live, the Chinese Grand Prix weekend starts this Thursday or Friday, March 20th or 21st, and just like with the Australian Grand Prix, I highly recommend double-checking the race weekend schedule right now, because the Chinese Grand Prix race weekend gets very confusing, not just due to time zones, but also because, as I'll talk about shortly, it's an F1 sprint weekend, folks. The Shanghai International Circuit is 5.451 kilometers or 3.39 miles in length, and the Chinese Grand Prix will be contested over the course of 56 laps around its 16 turns that were designed to resemble the Chinese character Shang, the first character in the name of the host city, Shanghai. The Shanghai International Circuit has 2 DRS zones, one on each of its 2 back-to-back straights, each with its own detection line. Its signature sections are the double apex turns 1 to 3 and 11 to 13 complexes that are essentially reversed versions of each other, as well as the turns 6 to 9 S section between them. Also, when I look at the back straight at the Shanghai International Circuit, I just cannot help but get Zandvoort and Hungaroring vibes. Lance Stroll, meanwhile, gets flashbacks when thinking about that particular back straight. If you feel like you aren't very familiar with the Chinese Grand Prix, that makes perfect sense, considering it was canceled an F1 record 4 years in a row from 2020 through 2023 due to pandemic restrictions, only returning to the calendar last year when it was won by Max Verstappen. Fun fact, last year's 2024 Chinese Grand Prix was the site of Checo Perez's most recent podium finish, which is pretty insane considering there were 19 races after that, and also considering his teammate won the World Drivers' Championship in the same car. That's why Red Bull hired a new driver for this season, which is not going very well thus far, admittedly, as Liam Lawson had a pretty bad Red Bull debut in Australia. Maybe that hire would have gone better for Red Bull if they'd used my sponsor, Indeed! When it comes to hiring, finding the right person quickly is incredibly important, because the longer a role goes unfilled or is not optimally filled, the longer your business is not able to maximize its potential. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. Indeed's sponsored jobs help you stand out and hire fast. With sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. And the best part is, it makes a huge difference. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. When past companies I've worked at were looking to hire, I wish we'd used Indeed, because it would have saved us a lot of headaches. How fast is Indeed? In the minute I've been talking to you, 23 hires were made on Indeed according to Indeed data worldwide. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/FBone. Just go to Indeed.com/FBone right now and support our show by saying you heard about it right here. Indeed.com/FBone. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, Indeed is all you need. Next up, here are your storylines to follow for the 2025 F1 Chinese Grand Prix. Your first storyline: hey Formula 1 fans, are you ready for the return of F1 Sprint? Well, it doesn't matter, because it's back this weekend whether you want it to be or not. Yes, every Formula 1 fan's favorite thing to hate returns for the first time in 2025 this weekend, as the Chinese Grand Prix weekend is, indeed, an F1 Sprint weekend. If you're new to F1, F1 Sprint weekends are special event weekends where the race weekend changes up entirely and practice sessions are replaced with competitive sessions. A normal F1 race weekend goes free practice 1 and free practice 2 on Friday, free practice 3 and qualifying on Saturday, and the Grand Prix on Sunday. A 2025 F1 Sprint weekend, on the other hand, goes free practice 1 and sprint race qualifying on Friday, the sprint race and Grand Prix qualifying on Saturday, and the Grand Prix on Sunday. So why are F1 Sprint weekends so controversial? Because while some people think the added competitive sessions are way more fun to watch than practice sessions, they're right. Others think it's too non-traditional and also not worth the trade-off of these additional competitive sessions, ruining the mystery and prestige of the Grand Prix. They're also right. Whether you love it or hate it, get used to it, because after China, we have 5 more F1 sprint weekends this season: Miami, Spa, Austin, Interlagos, and Qatar. What are your thoughts on F1 sprint? Let me know in the comments. Your second storyline: we need to talk about McLaren Formula One team. And what we need to talk about is this: are McLaren about to run away with this F1 season like Red Bull have been running away with F1 seasons lately? I bring this up because a little over halfway through the Australian Grand Prix, when the two McLarens were way out in front of everyone by a huge margin, I got that feeling that I used to get when Red Bull were dominating races, where it just feels like the winning team has pretty much already been decided, even though there's a bunch of the race left. Fortunately, the weather and drivers forgetting how to drive made this race supremely entertaining, but it got me thinking about what dry weather races could end up looking like this season, starting with this weekend's Chinese Grand Prix. At least if the McLaren car is way better than all the other cars like it appears it might be, we are set up for an exciting Lando versus Oscar season that could go full Senna versus Prost if we're lucky, but I personally was hoping for a bit more parity this season up and down the grid. There is a chance that the new flexi-wing directive starting in China could make the McLaren car slower, and or that other teams figure some stuff out here soon and get closer to McLaren, but all that remains to be seen. How do you think McLaren's season is going to turn out? Are they going to dominate, or is it going to be a little bit more level and balanced? Let me know in the comments. Your next storyline: what in tarnation is going on with Scuderia Ferrari right now? All eyes were on Ferrari at the F1 season opening Australian Grand Prix, not only because it was Lewis Hamilton's first race for the Prancing Horses, but also because Ferrari were pegged by many as being potential World Constructors champions this season for the first time since 2008. Welp, all the eyes that were on Ferrari were sadly brought to tears as both their cars got out-qualified by a Williams and a V-Carb, and then finished the Grand Prix behind a Williams, a Sauber, and, most embarrassingly, Lance Stroll. Actually, most embarrassingly, maybe Oscar Piastri stealing P9 from Lewis, despite Oscar literally looking like he was out of the race at one point because he was stuck in the grass. Ferrari are somehow currently in P7 in the World Constructors' Championship, behind such teams as Sauber, Aston Martin, and Williams, and that is well below what we expected of them this season. I personally think and hope that they figure it out here soon, but I want to hear what you think. Let me know in the comments, folks. Your final storyline: introducing J-Bone's F1 Rookie of the Year race. Just in case the Chinese Grand Prix ends up being boring, don't worry, because J-Bone is here to help make sure all the races this season are exciting all season long by adding in another storyline for you to follow. How J-Bone's F1 Rookie of the Year race is going to work is that I'll be judging rookies all season long based on their performances relative to their car, not just based on points scored. After each race, I'll award my last place rookie 0 points and my first place rookie 5 points, and the winner of J-Bone's F1 Rookie of the Year race will be the rookie with the most points come the end of the season. You could argue that this points system not scaling up with improved performance like the F1 point system does is intentionally designed to keep things interesting all season long, and you'd be right. So stay tuned all 2025 long for what should be an amazing rookie battle. Here are my Australian Grand Prix rookie rankings, and thus the rookie rankings entering the second race of the season in China. In 6th place, aka last place, I'm going with Alpine rookie Jack Doohan, and in 5th place, I've got V-Carb rookie Isaac Hadjar. But J-Bone, Isaac Hadjar didn't even start the race because he crashed during the formation lap. Okay, yeah, well, Jack Doohan only made it 5 turns into lap 1 before crashing similarly to Hadjar, and Hadjar outqualified Doohan by 3 positions, so Hadjar gets the nod here from me. All of that is unfortunate because it would not have taken much for either of those two drivers to jump either of the next two drivers, given how poorly all the rookies performed in general in Australia. But alas, not completing a single lap of the race is gonna cost you. In 4th place, I've got Haas rookie Ollie Behrman, because while he crashed a zillion times in the build-up to the Grand Prix, like a zillion times, he was one of only 2 rookies to not crash during the race itself, which has to be worth something, as the Grand Prix is the only thing that matters in a regular race weekend. Well, not counting all the money Behrman cost Haas in repairs. In 3rd place, I'm begrudgingly going with Red Bull rookie Liam Lawson. He didn't do very good, but it's kind of slim pickings here. Lawson somehow qualified P18 in a Red Bull, which is terrible, but at least he still did have a shot at finishing in the points with 10 laps left when he crashed after Red Bull opted to leave him out on slick tires in the wet. In 2nd place, give me Sauber rookie Gabby Bortoleto, who impressively made Q2 in qualifying and then was running in P13 with 10 laps left in what was a solid point scoring opportunity before he too crashed. In 1st place, by a lot, I've got Mercedes rookie Kimi Antonelli, who had arguably one of the greatest debut race results of the modern F1 era by finishing P4 in a wet, dry, wet race at just 18 years of age from P16 on the starting grid. So that, folks, is where my rookie ranking currently stands. How will this ranking look after the Chinese Grand Prix? Only time will tell, but feel free to comment with your Chinese Grand Prix rookie driver predictions. Now, the moment you've all been waiting for. Here are my 3 bona fide race predictions for the 2025 F1 Chinese Grand Prix. I only went 1 for 3 with my Australian Grand Prix race predictions, which isn't great, but folks, these are guaranteed to be 3 for 3. Results not guaranteed. My first race prediction is that McLaren will have a 1-2 finish at the Chinese Grand Prix. On paper, McLaren had a great but not incredible Australian Grand Prix. While Lando Norris's race win is obviously the best result possible, Oscar Piastri's lackluster P9 means McLaren are currently tied with Mercedes on points at the top of the World Constructors' Championship leaderboard. However, the tale the paper doesn't tell, well, that's that at one point, the McLarens were absolutely destroying everyone and on their way to cruising to the easiest 1-2 finish ever before weather and multiple safety cars caused by it came into the picture. With Shanghai predicted to be a dry race weekend, I think China will be the weekend that we all see that the McLaren car is a step above the rest as they cruise to a 1-2 finish. My second race prediction is that Mercedes rookie Kimi Antonelli will finish in the top 5 at the Chinese Grand Prix. I don't want to get ahead of myself, okay, I don't, but we may be witnessing the start of one of the greatest careers in F1 history right now. After car damage and qualifying resulted in him starting the Australian Grand Prix in 16th place, Mercedes rookie Kimi Antonelli, in his first ever F1 race that took place in tricky wet conditions, managed to gain an insane 12 positions on his way to finishing the race 1 place off the podium with an insanely respectable P4 result. Kimi's P4 saw him become the second youngest F1 point scorer in F1 history, as well as just the 4th driver in the last 30 years to finish in the top 4 on debut. I think Kimi is the real deal, and with how bad the Ferraris and Liam Lawson looked in Australia, I think it's very possible we see another Kimi top 5 in China, which is why I'm predicting it. My third race prediction is that Carlos Sainz will finish in the points for the first time as a Williams driver in China. Sainz impressively made Q3 in his first qualifying session in a Williams car, and I'm convinced that had it not been for a car issue that caused him to lose control on lap 1 under safety car, he would have finished in the points too. Sainz's teammate Alex Albon finished an insane P5, so we know the Williams car is solid. And because I know Sainz is solid, I like Carlos to finish in the points in China this weekend for the first time as a Williams driver. Now for the most important part of this video, what are your predictions for the 2025 Chinese Grand Prix? Let me see them in the comments, go comment right now. Scroll down, do it, go comment. And last but not least, here's my prediction for the top 5 finishers in the 2025 Chinese Grand Prix with zero reasoning nor explanation. P5, Kimi Antonelli. P4, George Russell. P3, Max Verstappen. P2, Oscar Piastri. And P1, Lando Norris. Toss me a subscription now and ring that notification bell so that you'll get my Chinese Grand Prix recap next week right when it drops. And while you're doing that, don't forget to like this video so that YouTube likes me more and shows my videos to more people. Special shout out to my top YouTube channel members, Brian Linton, Wolfslows Racing, Waffleopicus, Melissa Cruz, The Tater, Elmar Zuber, Ilkin Mustafa, Evan David Hake. Mash that join button just below this video to get your name shouted out right here in future videos. And until next time, folks, J-Bomb! J-Bomb!